Hello and welcome to my video. I'll be doing a short demonstration of the operation of an RT-7 APN-1 World War II era radar altimeter. This device was used in aircraft that had to fly low, such as torpedo bombers during the war, and it gave accurate readings of altitude down to tens of feet. So it was very useful in that particular application. The design was very sound and it survived the war. These units were still in use as late as around 1970 or so. So we will turn to the unit. This is it as it appeared in the aircraft avionics bay. It runs off the aircraft 28 volts DC. It consists of this box. There was a shock mounting, which I have separately, that it mounted on. It has several connectors, as you can see, and an indicator unit. This was in the cockpit. The pilot would look at that and see what his altitude was. It has an on-off switch and also a range switch. So it could be set either for a top range of 150 feet or 1,500 feet. Oh, scratch that. A top range of 400 feet or 4,000 feet. That's what I meant to say. It works on an FM principle. It's frequency modulating a transmit signal, and then when it receives the return echo signal, mixes that with the transmit signal, and the delay causes a frequency difference between the two, which is detected. That frequency difference is proportional to the altitude, and the components in the amplifiers are chosen such as to render the correct altitude in feet on the indicator. What I have here is a cable, an electrical cable, equivalent to about 150 feet of physical length, which is about 260 feet of electrical length, to simulate the altitude above the water or ground that the instrument would be rendering. The unit used two different antennas. This is the output here to the transmit antenna. That would normally have been mounted under one wing of the aircraft, and under the opposite wing there would be an identical receive antenna. The two antennas were shielded from one another to some extent by the fuselage of the aircraft. These other connectors here are for power and for indicators and for other purposes we don't have to go into. Now what we have for power, in the aircraft it would have been the aircraft DC generator putting out a nominal 24 volts or so. What I have are two 12-volt gel cells here in series to power it up. The current is being sensed by this somewhat antique Radio Shack multimeter, and you will see, if it shows up on the video, that the current pops up to a fairly high value when you first turn it on. It's about 5 or 6 amperes and then drops to a steady value of about 2.5 amperes. High voltage in the unit was provided by a dynamotor. This was a very common device used during World War II because tube circuits require high voltages on the order of hundreds of volts. 24 volts is not going to cut it coming from the aircraft generator, so it had to be increased somehow, and what they did was they built a little motor generator into the unit that ran on the 24 volts and spun up and produced a DC output of, in this case, about 270 volts. I believe it's 275 on the dynamotor in this unit. So that was how you got the high voltage in those days. So we will go ahead and turn it on and see what we have. What you expect to see, the current will jump up here and then drop to its steady state value of 2.5 amps. Here on the altimeter, nothing will happen initially, and then after several seconds, as the tubes warm up, you will see the needle climb up. There may be some overshoot, but it should settle down to a value of about 130 feet. Remember, I said this is about 260 electrical feet of cable, so half of that would correspond to the altitude. The round trip would be 260 feet. So let's switch it on, see what we have. You'll hear a whine from the dynamotor. There went the current. Settle down. I have the range set on the low 400 foot range now. Needle's not moving yet. Tubes are warming up in there. There it goes. Takes a little while to stabilize. Right now it's reading about 120 feet altitude. It drifts a little bit over time. If I disconnect the cable, you get nothing. No reading. A little higher now, about 125 feet. And that is it. That shows it working. There's our current reading of about 2.5 amperes. If I change the range, of course the needle drops way down. That's about 130 feet on the high range, but it wouldn't be terribly accurate on that range. But it looks fairly good, fairly close. Back to the low range. As I said, this unit was mounted in the cockpit in the control panel, while the main unit was back in the avionics bay of the aircraft. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to make some more videos along this line soon. Thanks, and have a good day. I'll shut it off now.